In the United States, the children sing a little song. It goes something like this. Fall has come. We're having fun. I wonder when it will be done. Well, I hope you're having fun here. I hope you're gaining a lot more information and you're having fun. It's a pleasure, real pleasure to be here with you today. Today, we're going to talk about time. And certainly, time is an important thing. It's the one thing that you never get enough of. Time is the one thing that you can't go back and do over again. So, time, very, very important. But time in this case stands for total innovation, management, excellence, and it's truly it's the key to where we're going in the future. And it, it's a pleasure to be here, actually to share this with you. But there's a key point I want to make. Don't start an improvement process to improve customer satisfaction or even morale. Yes, it will do that. But the real reason you need to improve processes is to increase profit, to increase net revenue that's coming in so you can do more and make better future decisions. Today, business is finding itself in a very tight vice. From one side, we have this foreign competition that's coming in. More and more people from the Europe, United States competing against the people from Asia, Africa. And on this side, that continuous pressure of higher and more complex and more amount of effort being poured into that tightening and squeeze. On the other side, we have shorter and shorter and shorter life cycles of our product. And in between, we have management focusing on how can they make the best use of the resources they have to make the most real value added to their organization and to the community. Truly, this is a very important and difficult problem to face. AMA did a survey and they indicated that 90% of the companies they surveyed had started an improvement process, and 50% of them had started it in the last 3 years. 68% of them felt that they needed improved quality and they put it as a high or very high priority in their strategic plan. As a man over 90 years old, let me exercise my prerogative and go back to the good old days when I had lots of hair. If you look at our profession really started off with interchangeable parts. And that's where we built to the thing that we're working with today. And Eli Whitney is normally given credit for being the person that started that activity. In reality, he only got about five guns that had interchangeable parts. The real progress was made by Charles Fitch back in 1820, where he actually did it a complete interchangeable activities in all of his products. Uh, Following right after that, the next technology breakthrough we had was really Taylor, Frederick Taylor, who came out with the principles of management. Basically, he felt that management was a technical situation and you could treat it like a science. His four activities that he really pointed on was one, the development of management as a true science. Two, the scientific selection of the workers. Three, the scientific education and development of the workmen. And four, an intimate and friendly cooperation between management and men. That sounds pretty much like what we're trying to do today. We hear bad things about Taylor and it's keeping time and timing everything. But if you look at his fundamentals, it was very, very much in line with what we would like to accomplish today. It's truly to me, that the heart of the whole activities that we're talking about was Henry Ford Sr. He was truly the first organization that established an effective continuous flow process. It also uh, focused really on just in time. It took him 4 days from iron ore to a completed car being shipped to a customer. It takes 9 months to do that today with all of our technology and all of our computer activities. Basically, what was his system? He had separate individual quality inspectors. He really focused on supplier controls. It took what he earned and he shared it with his employees. When the average person was getting $2 a day, he was paying $5 a day to his auto workers. He error proofed the equipment, so it was hard to do it wrong. And truly, it had empowered employees that could stop the line whenever they saw something was wrong. So, truly, a very, very advanced system, probably more advanced than anything we're doing today. Well, maybe not, but certainly advanced for a leading edge in where we're going. Uh, Frank Gilbreth, recognized as the father of lean. He felt that there was one very best way of doing everything, and you should eliminate all waste. And he was a strong person to flowchart all of your manufacturing processes so you truly understood him. Truly, he was the lean person that started this whole movement that we've been talking about recently about lean. Uh, Sir Fisher, was the individual that changed our statistical thinking and came up with a design of experiments. And he's accepted as a design of experiments father. Uh, and his theories really applied in the engineering areas as well as the manufacturing areas. Uh, the father of statistical process control, Walter L. Schuhart, he came out with the control charts in 1924. He also came out with Plan, Do, Check, Act as a means of solving problems and going forward. We're still using Plan, Do, Check, Act. We're still using control charts. Truly the father of the quality control movement. Next big breakthrough occurred with Val Figgenbaum. Val was the father of total quality control. Val felt that quality applied throughout the entire process from womb to tomb. Starting back in engineering is where you designed the quality in manufacturing and how you delivered it. So he looked at that complete thing, and he was the first one that really brought that together in his book back in 1951. Phil Crosby, father of zero defects. A very simple theory. He says, I don't believe that there's a need to produce bad parts. We should have zero defects. And he got people swearing it, they would work towards that. A good objective, a fantastic objective. Maybe a difficult one to achieve, but a lot of the military organizations accepted that as their working standard for quality. Edward Deming's come along, and he's very famous for the fine work that he did in Japan and helping the Japanese turn around after the war. His 14 points has stood up time after time for the last 30 years as being leading thought patterns in the way you should be managing your organization. Along came Dr. Ishikawa, a father of quality circles. He looked at really a plant wide quality base where you trained everyone in quality principles and how to attack problems and how to solve problems. He felt that the quality circles was not to solve problems, it was a means of teaching quality to every worker. It would, in 1983, we had another breakthrough. It was total quality management, TQM. Basically, it took Bill Feigenbaum's TQC, total quality control, added lean teams. He had management deeply involved. Uh, the total organization was become part of the quality movement. heavy focus on customers. Uh, Very much what he did, he grabbed all of the activities and brought them together into something we called total quality management. Next biggest breakthrough came along in 1987 with ISO 9000. This was the first really international standard that defined what quality was and what quality system was. And it's went through many, many iterations since then, but it still stands out there as the one area that's really important to be certified in. Certification in many companies is mandatory or they won't do business with you. So, truly a major breakthrough in thinking and in our methodology as quality professionals. 1987, it's about the same time, gave birth to Six Sigma. Heavy focus, heavy focus initially on statistical control, statistical activities. The president of Motorola required that they get a 10 times improvement in 4 years. And how do you measure it? Well, statistically, what's the best way to measure it? And out of that came green belts and black belts. A new standard for quality was 3.4 defects per million measurements. Uh, People accepted that you couldn't be perfect, zero defects was impossible. So here's a compromise. Here's a stringent requirement, but it's a compromise. We don't expect you to be perfect ever. Oh, Dr. Suguchi, one of the leaders from Japan, came through with a whole set of new thought patterns. We started talking about loss function and authoritative rays and robustness. He set a whole new uh, thought design into our whole thinking pattern related to quality. About 1988, we had business process improvement. Here was a major focus away from the manufacturing area to the support areas. There was a sudden realization that manufacturing was not the problem, that what the problem was all the overhead costs. And I heard one president that told his vice president of manufacturing and product engineering. He said, "I want to see product engineering be as good as the quality manufacturing area." Whole new thought pattern. The kid drove simulation modeling, value added analysis, streamlining a whole set of individual tools. Robert Camp came up with, well, we give him the credit as the father of modern benchmarking. But benchmarking was going on for a long period of time, but he really brought it around into a very systematic approach that really has been very widely accepted throughout the world as a major driver of the quality movement and still a very important measure. By 1991, we realized we weren't getting the results that we should have. We'd install a system, we'd install activities, we'd install our processes, but it didn't give us the results that we wanted. And we kept trying to improve the methodology. And all of a sudden, we realized the methodology was good. What was bad was we did not prepare the people to accept the changes. The individuals that was impacted by the changes that were going on were not accepting it. They were resisting it. They were pushing back. And along came an idea of organizational change management where you just broke down resistance. You made the organization more resilient in the way they operated. Well, that was really our fundamentals. You didn't see much really. Since then, we've been no, improving, continuously improving, focusing on those basics. But we really have primarily been building off of their basics. And now we really want to talk about, you know, what do I see out at 2025? And I see something very, very different because for the first time, we're stepping back and we're realizing that quality is an engineering assignment, not a management assignment. we need people with the BSs, not with the MBAs. Of course, you need a combination of both. But now all of a sudden, we're coming into a time period where we're focusing more and more on designing quality and designing total performance in rather than uh, waiting on correcting it after we've started shipping it. And so as a result, well, I see the future of quality. Well, first of all, I see design controls as the direction we're going rather than manufacturing process control. It's been years since I've seen a decent design review done by a quality function, any of the ones that I've seen or worked with. Uh, Two, there's going to be a return to a focus on quality versus cost reduction. Uh, I've seen hundreds of improvement activities where they talk about the results, and they always talk about the results as dollars saved. And really, uh, we should be talking about improved customer satisfaction. None of them I hardly ever do I hear people brag about what happened to customer satisfaction as we implement things like ISO 9000, as uh, Six Sigma, lean, that sort of thing. Certainly, there's going to be less focus on standardization. I think that I'm not really thinking we're going to have less standard procedures. I think we're going to be more voluntary standard procedures where you use those procedures to define possible thought patterns you should consider. And once you've decided on what's the best combination for you, you select the ones that's yours rather than being forced down the path that some group of statisticians or uh, university professors felt was the right way to go. Reliability become a focus versus initial delivery quality. We've been focusing on what happens, what does the car look like when it rolls off the line. What's important is how long it's going to run after it rolls out of the line. You don't buy Toyotas because of initial quality. You buy Toyotas because it lasts for long. It does not have the problems that other cars have uh, in reliability. And we're going to see more technology controls versus people controls, where we're going to rely more on automation, mechanization, and robotics rather than people to do the monotonous work. How do you measure quality? What does a quality organization measure itself? Well, probably if you're talking about order, first order ought to be customer satisfaction. Second one would be time to failure. Maybe the third one is first time yield, uh, first day failure rates, first 90-day failure rates, quality costs, how many suggestions and improvement are coming from your people, what is the warranty cost, percent returned items. And very last on your list should be dollars saved. And that's all we've been talking about. All we care about is saving money. We don't care about the rest of it. Oh, we say we do. We don't measure it. We don't report it. We don't brag about it. When we get so we start bragging about what's happening as far as warranty costs, then we've got something to talk about. When we start talking about customer satisfaction improvement, there's we got something to talk about. There's where quality is going to shine. When we improve the reliability by a factor of 10, that will be a difference. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone feels that innovation is necessary. Oh, we got to have it. We got to have it. Everybody wants to do it. Sure, we're going to be more innovative, but very few will agree on what it is. And very few agree that that they are going to do something different. Oh, we've been very innovative all along. Well, how do we become more innovative? We're original and creative. Well, oh, why is innovation so important? Everyone wants the brightest, newest, and latest item. It's more important than anything else. They line up for this. They are tired of the tried improving product. They want a quick turnover. We're a use it up quickly environment today. We're not talking about something when we buy we're going to keep for 10 years. We're talking about how we're going to keep it for 1 year. So it's a whole different thought pattern. So we've got to be very fast in coming out with new and different ideas. Now, we've talked about creative activity for a long time, and you know, innovation, creativity, how do they fit together? Now, I know I took a course on creativity back in 1960. Very important. Creativity is defined is using the abilities to make or think of new things involving the process by which new ideas, stories, products, etc. are created. Notice we ended with created. Created. That means that you got to come out with something. You can't just think about something. You've got to come out and make something. You've got to end up with something that's worthwhile when you get through. And creativity is defined very simply as making something to bring something into existence. So truly, creativity provides a very important part of the innovation thought patterns that we're dealing with. ISO TC 276, Technical Committee 276, has 8 working groups, all focused on developing standards related to innovation. It's a series of standards called 56,000 Innovation Management System Standards, and we have some of them that are out. We have a vocabulary one that has been released. We have a one that's Innovation Management Systems that's been released, and a whole series of them that are in the middle to be released very shortly. These are going to become very, very important. So far, none of these are mandatory. These are all voluntary. And I think that's the way to go, and I hope it stays that way. ISO defines innovation as innovation is new or changed entities. Entities are anything that's new or changed. Realizing or redistributing value. Huh, it's hard for me to think of anything that wouldn't be you know, changed or redistribute value. So to me, I felt this was a loose, very loose area. I would look at least for positive value, and I'd like to have seen it come out as uh, new or previously unused. But this is the standard for the international activities is going to be, and we should all accept it and live with it. This is the standard that we should be working with. This is the definition we should be using. Now, from my standpoint, innovation is the big picture. Everything is innovation. I can be innovative about where we're going to go shopping today. I can be innovation about how we're going to get there. I can be innovative on how I'm going to wash my hair. But creativity is that total all put together. And innovation turns out to be just that small part in the middle that really applies to the organization itself, delivering value to an external customer. In other words, would define as creativity is new generating idea generation. I would define innovation as implementing ideas in a way that creates economic value to our business world. When you see that, it's easiest to see that you can have creativity without innovation, but you can't have innovation without creativity. So both of them are very important, and we need to really focus on creativities to get the whole business started. Peter Drucker, met Peter when he was out here in California, Southern California. Great man, way ahead of his time. He pointed out all organizations, not just businesses, need one core competency: innovation. All businesses need innovation. It doesn't matter whether you're a painter, whether you're a government agency, whether you're a profit or nonprofit. You need to be innovative if you're going to stay into existence. There are basically seven principal creativity activities that I like to think about. Uh, Activity one is you have to be interested in being creative. You have to be interested in what can we do different, what challenging, what you run into. Number two, you got to recognize the opportunity. There's just so many opportunities around us to improve. You can say, hey, what can they? This is an opportunity. It's something that's important that we do. I could make some money out of this. I could add value. I could make life better for somebody. Three, you got to develop alternatives. Don't One of the problems that we have a problem where you come up with a solution. I claim that you need to come up with three solutions, each of them based upon different assumptions, and then you get a thought pattern that's complete that you can sit down and say, which is the best option? With one option, you spend all your time justifying the option. With three or four options, you look at the total impact. Five, certainly you've got to validate your assumptions. You've got to base your things on fact and good statistical sound data. And once you did that, you can prove that it works by building it or showing it or making it happen. And then if last, you've got to evaluate to be sure that it accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. Those are the seven basic activities that fall in line for creativity or innovation. Uh, Innovation process cycle is made up of uh, three phases. First one is creation. Second one is preparation and production, and last is delivery. And under each of them is three groups or four groups of processes, uh, adding up to a total of 12 groupings that makes up the innovative process cycle. Uh, you really need to focus on all of them. You can't focus just on problem development. You've got to focus on how you're going to document it, how you're going to move it out, how you're going to sell it. All of these are all important, and it's all part of your innovative process. There are five types of innovation. We have product innovation. That's what we're spending most of our time on. We have process innovation, and this is the way we make something. We lower our prices because we can make it better. So this is how we run our business. We have sales and marketing innovation, and this is how we actually select what we're going to move forward, how we're going to distribute it, what it's going to price at, what it's going to function. Probably more innovation goes in there than even in product innovation. We have managed innovation. That's how we're going to manage our people, how we're going to run our organization. And last, we have service, which is how we're going to interface with our customer once we have delivered the product to them. There basically are five levels of innovation. This is based upon a study of about 200,000 patents, where a Russian has looked at each one and classified them and say, why, what was the basic idea that drove this patent to make it legitimate, to make it unique? And he came up with five different classifications. Level one was apparent solutions. These are ones, gee, it's obvious that this is the next logical step. Number two, minor improvement. Well, probably if we painted it blue, it would attract more young boys instead of being pink. Uh, minor improvements. Level three, major improvements, things that says, oh, wow, this is really interesting. Four, New paradigms, these are rare. Wow, this is something that's really unique. And 5, that discovery, which is, oh my gosh, I never even considered that before. So those are the 5 levels. Now, if you look at this is the iPhone. And what you're seeing here is you start off with the initial one, and you got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. And each of these are continuous improvements. Just a little bit better. They worked off from the one. This is a number 2, where they've taken an idea and they moved it up to the next level. And that's a typical evolution we see. And this is really where we make the money. This is really where the biggest part of our production areas are in. And if you look at a curve here, when we started looking at what percentage of the patents fit into each of the category, the uh, number 1, 68% of them were obviously next generation. 27% was small improvements. 3 was 4. Level 3 was 4%, and level 4.2, level 5.6. Now, if you look at that, apparent solutions, 68%. Minor improvements, 27%. Major improvements, 4%. New paradigms, 0.2%. Discovery, 0.06%. If you look at 1 and 2, that's 95% of all of our patents fall into those categories. And these are the ones that drives your business. The other 5% are very important. Truly they are. But there's very few uh, organizations that can focus on that and afford to make as many experiments to come out with a fine item at end that is truly a new paradigm. Certainly, we're seeing that need being impressed on us right now with the virus that we're fighting around the world. Now, there is 10 improvement drivers, and you've got to, when you're talking about innovation, you've got to talk about driving all of these into your innovation system. And the first one is shared vision. You got to have a shared vision where everybody is in agreement on it. S2 is you got to have a strategy that will drive us towards that vision. S3, you have to have a system that will make the strategy work. S4, you got to have a structure within your organization that will build upon and make things happen and be able to create new and better ways of doing things. Number 5, you got to have skilled people that can look and understand and have the background to make changes to come out with new ideas. Number 5, you got to have the style. You got to be willing to accept failure and move forward and build on it rather than get discouraged and get downhearted. You certainly, number 7, staffing. You got to have the people available. Number 8, you got to have the special technologies and information available because technology movement is where we're really moving fast in today's environment. Number 9, systematic change management. We've got to be able to prepare the people that's got to change. And last but not least, a knowledge management system that collects the information and makes it available to the people that needs to use it in an analyzed form. It's interesting. The poorest countries have vast resources. Niagara, Mexico, Russia. The richest countries have few resources. Japan, Singapore. Why is that? Why does Switzerland do so well in comparison? Why? Because they focus on innovation. They drive hard. They don't use resources as their backup. They use the minds of their people to drive the future of their country. Our workers have sort of evaluated and grown as we went through. First of all, back in the 80s, the 1880s period, we had primarily land workers, farmers, people out growing apples, growing wheat. Then we had factory workers. The people moved out of the country into the factories, and uh, we started manufacturing steels and auto and electric train to gas driven cars. Then once you build up the factory, you needed people in the office to set schedules, to keep records, to uh, track the money. So now we had a new factor built up, which was the office worker, and everybody wanted to move into the office worker. But as soon as you're in the office, you had to be knowledgeable. You had to understand what you're doing. So now all of a sudden we had to talk about ever learning education for the worker. So we had the knowledge worker, and that's as if to have the knowledge to distribute, you had to have information that's dissolved down into factual. You're not passing on information that is unsound. And here we are today at the innovation worker level. And through this is sort of the evolution that we went through as you go on. ISO 9000, what it did, it got you into the race. In many cases, you can't even quote on a product unless you got certified at ISO 9000. So it got you into the race. TQM got you clearing the hurdles. You were running, you could get out in the lead, you could jump high. So it was truly one that was jumping over hurdles as we went along. And with time, you're going to be on time to win the race. And it requires that thought pattern, that feeling of creativity, that feeling of questioning that's going to drive future. Some interesting things that I just will point out quickly. What we did is we looked at the award winners, the ones that won Malcolm Baldrige awards, uh, won awards for outstanding uh, quality, outstanding benchmarking, outstanding design, and so you see those in yellow. And then under the blue ones was we selected firms that were about the same in that same category, and we'll call those our benchmarking firms, and it's in blue. And now when we compared what was actually happening, you find on the first one, operating income, blue over 80, or excuse me, green over 80, blue just over 40. Almost 100% better if you're one of the award winning than as though you're one of the ones that's falling in the middle. Uh, Sales, the same thing. You see that huge differential uh, that the award winners way ahead. Total assets and everyone, employees, return on assets in every area you see there's a major uh, positive advantage in really focusing on being the best and being that outstanding one. Here it is. We talk an awful lot about it's the big companies. It's the big companies that we have to focus on because they're the ones that will listen and do things. But what we did here is we brought the small companies versus the big companies, and you can see that the small companies in green here was operating income over 60%, where the large companies just over 20%, 200% higher, just because they were small companies focusing on a winning attitude. And again, throughout any measurement you want, that holds true. It also holds true when you start looking at what's happened. And this is looking at over years. You notice that uh, the improvement during the first year is high. Second year, it drops down, so it's just over 10%, growing back up in third, fourth. And the big winner is the fifth year, which says it's a long, continuous process, something you got to live with. You can't just go in and do it for 6 months. You do it for a year. It's something that you're committing to as a lifetime activity, and that's where the profit's going to really pour in. There's, there's a very important issue you have to also consider. Your customers, your investors deal with you for two reasons. There's a reason that what is their priority, their improvement priority? What do they want to see improve? Uh, And they go away from you because of negative impact. Now, this is investors, and it says the first level is what do the investors want to see as a priority improvement? Well, return on investments, number one, stock prices, number two, return on assets, number three, market share, number four, success of new products. Those are the five things that they want to see as their priority improvement areas. But what will make them turn away? What are the negative things that say, I'm going to take my money and move it someplace else? Well, it's very different than the things that what their priorities are. The negative things is reduce on stock prices, reduce dividends, low profit levels, reduce market share, failure of new products. You can see a huge differential between what their priority improvements are and what their negative impacts are. And you've got to focus on both. You can't focus on one. You can do everything they want to see improve. And if you get worse and worse in your negative areas, you're also going to suffer bad business. Here's another example of management. You'll see exactly the same thing, where there's a huge difference in what they want to see improve and what the negative impact is upon what they think business was result. Here's external customers. Again, in every case, there's just that huge differential of employees, the huge differential between what they want to see improve. And when you go in, you say, what do you want to see improve? You also got to understand what are the negative impacts that they've got to offset as you're doing that. Innovation is not part of the game. It is the game today. And why do you start an innovation cycle? Well, you really start for one reason. You really want to be more profitable. And how do you become more profitable? Well, in today's market, you have a total market. Maybe you've got 25% of the market. Well, one thing you can do is you can grow the market, make the market bigger. You still have 25%, but you're much more uh, profitable and you're performing at a much higher rate. The other way is you can get a bigger part of the market. And here, what you do, you have to take something away from somebody else. So the profitable one, the the one that's the win-win situation, is to focus on growing the market, not growing market share. Truly, total innovation management excellence is a key to where we're going. And it's driven by a pyramid. It's that we come up with. It's a pyramid that's individual 6 tiers. The bottom tier is value to all stakeholders, not just to the investor, not just to the customer, but to all of them. The next level is setting direction. How are we going to drive to make that happen? What are the planning that goes into it? The blue, the yellow level is basic concept. What are the rules that you're going to live by? The blue is your delivery process. How are you going to actually take those rules and turn them into output that's value added? The next one is your organizational impact and how it impacts the total. And at the very top is shared values, and these are the rewards and recognition system that holds the whole thing together. Now, this pyramid breaks down into 16 different building blocks. We're not going to talk you through the building blocks, but it's important to realize that each of these building blocks has to be treated individually, and you have to address them and make sure that you're covering those in a superior manner. I think that the word Excelsior is the thing that drives each of those building blocks. We'll close by leaving you with my 5 rules to live by. And what I'd like you to do, I'm going to read the rule, and then I want you to read it with me, okay? Again, I will read the rule first, then you read it with me. Here we go. Rule 1. The 5 top priorities are the customer, the customer, the customer, the customer, and the customer. Okay, now, together, everybody. The 5 top priorities are the customer, the customer, the customer, the customer, and the customers. Good, 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 good. You're doing well. Rule number 2, the 5 keys to profit are innovation, 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 and innovation. Rule number 3, the steps to competitiveness are 1, provide your customer with output that exceeds his expectations. And 2, go back and do step 1 over again and do it better this time. Rule number 4, leaders work on the process, employees work within the process. And my last rule, and the one I'd like to leave you with and dwell deeply into your mind, is just be better today than you were yesterday, and better tomorrow than you are today. Thank you very much for your time. I hope that we're going to develop a culture of time that wins every time. Thank you.